Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're going to be checking out another one of the buffed Pokemon in Season 13 of Go Battle League, Wing Attack Shadow Gliscor. Now Gliscor is a flying and ground type Pokemon with the moveset of Wing Attack, Night Slash, and Earthquake, and thanks to the Wing Attack buff, it's now able to get to its charge moves even faster. I decided to test it out in the Open Great League, and I ran it with a Lickitung Save Switch and a Registeel as the closer. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out Shadow Gliscor in action in the Great League. Hopping into the first match, leading Shadow Gliscor into Sableye. This is a pretty decent lead for Gliscor, so I am going to stay in this matchup to start. Sableye is going to go for the foul play right away. Gliscor, not the tankiest Pokemon ever, so I am going to commit a shield on the foul play, farm up to the Earthquake, and then bait with a Night Slash, hoping to try and grab a shield. My opponent is going to call the bait. I farm up, go for the Night Slash, but my opponent makes a switch into Pelipper. That is a little unfortunate. One good catch does deserve another though, so I'm going to farm up and catch the Weather Ball aimed at the Gliscor onto my Registeel. Registeel is now in a pretty nice situation where I can farm up to 100 energy and then fire off a Focus Blast to KO, because even a resistant Focus Blast will be enough to KO the Pelipper from this health range. So I'm going to farm up, fire off the Focus Blast. I actually decided to throw just before they reach their next Weather Ball, so not quite at 100 energy, and my opponent is going to send in Medicham as their final Pokemon. So my opponent's team is ABA weak to Shadow Gliscor, so Shadow Gliscor should be able to put in a lot of work in the endgame. My opponent will aggressively switch into the Sableye. I do have energy on the Gliscor. I'm going to send in Gliscor and fire off the Night Slash. This will easily KO my opponent here, so they are going to commit the shield. I continue to farm, switch, and catch onto Lickitung. Lickitung is a fantastic damage sponge, so I'm going to be able to absorb all of the energy here from the Sableye, farm down, and leave with some energy to potentially threaten the Medicham. My opponent is going to get farmed down. They're going to send back in the Medicham. Lickitung is going to get hit with the charge move. If it's an Ice Punch, I should live. It's an Ice Punch. I am able to reach that Body Slam. That is massive. Body Slam will be grabbing the shield, and my Gliscor is very close to the Night Slash, and we get there. Night Slash will be taking care of the Medicham, and that is a good game. Moving into the next match, picking up a slightly negative lead, Shadow Gliscor into Altaria. I'm going to stay in this matchup to get some chip damage with a Night Slash, but then I will need to save switch out of here. Going for the Night Slash right off the bat. Night Slash lands. Unfortunately, no boost. I farm up a little bit extra, and I'm going to send in Lickitung. Altaria will farm up quite a bit as well, and they're going to start firing off their charge moves. They go for the Sky Attack, it connects, and they're going to send in Defense Deoxys. Defense Deoxys honestly is not going to be able to farm down here. If they try and fully commit to the farm down, I will reach 3 Body Slams, which means I can force a shield. So they can overfarm quite a bit, but they are going to need to fire off a charge move here. Lickitung is just too tanky, and they're forced to throw a move. That works for me. They go for the Thunderbolt as they don't want to lower their attack. I send in Gliscor, and Gliscor is able to get the farm down. That is big. Opponent sends back in Altaria, but they're now in the yellow, so this is a lot more manageable for me. I fire off the Night Slash, I get the shield, and I get the boost. You love to see it. I'm at a second Night Slash, Wing Attack charging incredibly quickly. Down goes Altaria. In the back, they have Toxicroak, which is absolutely deleted by the boosted Wing Attacks. Oh my goodness, that was an absolute slaughter. Toxicroak has a lot of energy, but I have 2 shields and a Registeel, so I can just double shield, lock on all the way down, and that is going to be game over. Hopping into the next match, picking up a pretty nice lead, Shadow Gliscor into Trevenant. You absolutely love to see it. My opponent does actually decide to stay in this lead, so they very well could be weak to Gliscor in the back. They go straight for the Seed Bomb. If they're weak, I will want to preserve some HP, so I'll commit the shield. My opponent is going to save switch into Skarmory, and I bank double Night Slash on my Gliscor, and now I can bring in a hard counter to Skarmory with my Registeel. Registeel is going to tank whatever Skarmory throws at me, and I'm now going straight for the Zap Cannon. This will do massive damage onto the Skarmory, and it's able to land, and on top of that, I do get the attack debuff. This of course means that the Sky Attack even though it's resisted, is going to be doing slightly less damage. Registeel is able to get the lock-on farm down, and I leave it over half HP. That's quite nice, and I have some loaded energy, so if they send in the Trevenant, I will be able to reach a Zap Cannon. Zap Cannon will be getting this Trevenant quite low. Aggressive switch back into Gliscor. I wasn't sure if the next wing attack would KO, so I decided to fire off the Night Slash. Night Slash gets the shield, Trevenant gets taken out. In the back is Bastiodon, and that is a good game. Picking up a tough lead in the next match, Shadow Gliscor into Registeel. Both Gliscor and Registeel struggle against Swampert, so definitely not a Pokemon I'm happy to see on the lead. Now, a Hydro Cannon does not quite one-shot, but it comes very close, so I will commit the shield and then fire off the Night Slash. Night Slash, of course, not going to KO, but will do some solid chip damage. I farm up, and I reach Night Slash number 2. They know they can let this through. I'm not boosted, so they are going to let that through and fire off another Hydro Cannon. I'm going to shield up and then try and make a catch on Hydro number 3. So I'm going to farm up, switch, and catch onto my Lickitung. That is massive. Licky will be able to absorb the damage. We'll have to see what they have in the back, and they have their own Registeel. That is not what I was hoping to see. I'll fire off a Body Slam with Lickitung, but honestly, there's not a whole lot I can do in this matchup. Registeel is going to reach the Focus Blast, and Focus Blast is going to do a ton of damage. It gets me very low. Lickitung is able to reach a last-second Body Slam, but unfortunately, that's not going to do a lot of damage, and Registeel does get a nice farm down. I'm going to send back in Gliscor. Gliscor will get outpaced, and Registeel is going to fire off a charge move. They go for the Focus Blast. That does quite a lot of resisted damage. I'm going to farm up, go for the Night Slash. Night Slash is not going to be enough to KO here, but it will get them low. I'm going to continue to farm and fire off another Night Slash. I do have some loaded energy here, which is quite nice, and I'm hoping the Swampert is low enough that I can farm it down. My opponent is going to switch out, and they have Galarian Stunfisk in the back. I'm going for the kill shot here, going for the Earthquake. Earthquake gets shielded. I go for the Rock Slide catch. My opponent is able to hold on to their energy, and now they're going to be able to connect with an Earthquake onto my Registeel. This is definitely not ideal. I will make a Focus Blast, but a Focus Blast is not lethal to a Stunfisk from this health range. Stunfisk will be able to absorb that damage and continue to farm. The good thing, however, is that they need to Earthquake here. A Rock Slide will not KO, and my opponent goes for a Rock Slide. Registeel able to hang on and get to a charge move. My switch timer is not yet up, though, which means Swampert will get extra farm. Do they have a move? Yes, they do. And unfortunately, we are going to lose a heartbreaking game. Moving into the next game, we pick up one of the best possible leads we can see, Shadow Gliscor into Unova Stunfisk. Everything Unova Stunfisk throws is going to be resisted in this matchup, so this is all around an incredible spot to be in. They fire off the discharge, that just does absolutely no damage, and they're going to save switch into Altaria, which will be met with Registeel. I'm able to save a bunch of energy on Gliscor, and Registeel does win the zeros here against Altaria. I fire off the Zap Cannon. Unfortunately, I do not get an attack drop, and they're going to return fire by spamming out these Sky Attacks. Sky Attack number 1 is going to connect. Registeel continues to farm. They reach Sky Attack number 2. I'm going to let this go as well. I'm perfectly fine with playing out the Zero Shield, and if they decide to commit a shield, that works out well for me. I will go for the Focus Blast because at this point, a resisted Focus Blast will be enough to KO, and it's slightly cheaper. They're going to send in Unova Stunfisk looking for the farm down, but I'm able to reach a last-second Focus Blast. This will do quite a bit of damage. My opponent is going to let that through, and they're able to farm down. I send in Gliscor. I fire off the Night Slash. Night Slash will not be lethal from this range. They actually call it, but I'm going to fire off Night Slash number 2. This one will KO. They have a lot of energy, and they do not want to lose it, as they will commit the shield. This discharge, of course, not going to be lethal, as it is going to be resisted. I continue to farm. They're firing off another discharge, so again, I am not going to be shielding this. I'm going to let that through. In the back, they have Spark Lantern, and I should have this game won. I'm going to fake an Earthquake to grab their final shield, and then, unfortunately, I'm not going to make a second Earthquake, but I will reach a last-second Night Slash, and this should just about put it into Power Whip range for Lickitung. In comes Lickitung. This Lantern has a ton of energy, but Lickitung has 2 shields and tremendous bulk. They fire off the first Surf. They're going for Surf number 2. Lickitung just does not care, shrugging off this damage. I'm going to farm up. I should be able to make it to the Power Whip, but I do lose CMP, and I decide, you know what? I have 2 shields, probably going to be worth it to shield something. So I will commit the shield there and fire back with the Power Whip. Power Whip is going to just about take out the Lantern. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Tough lead in the next match, Shadow Gliscor into Swampert. Swampert definitely ends up being an issue for the Shadow Gliscor Registeel core, so in the future, if I ran this team again, I might switch out the third for a Pokemon that can potentially handle Swampert better. In the meantime, I'm stuck in a situation where I'm ABA weak to Swampert, so I'm going to stay in the lead. I try and go for the catch onto Lickitung, but my opponent holds on to their energy. They farm up a ton, and now they're going to start firing off charge moves. They go for Hydro Cannon number 1. They're staying in, so I'm going to fire off this Body Slam. This Body Slam is going to connect, getting the Swampert deep into the red. Swampert continues to farm. I'm going to let this through. They fire off a Hydro Cannon, and my opponent is going to send in a Noctowl. Noctowl will be able to farm me down, but I have a Registeel waiting for the Noctowl in the back. Body Slam lands, Noctowl does get the farm down, and they leave with quite a bit of energy. And now, they're going to be forced to fire off Shadow Balls into my Registeel. Honestly, Noctowl with an energy lead can put in a lot of work versus Registeel, as Noctowl with this wing attack buff is incredibly powerful. They fire off Shadow Ball number 2. Registeel, despite being a steel type, is almost in the red from Noctowl. Absolutely crazy. Zap Cannon is of course going to KO. I'm expecting to see their third Pokemon here. We'll have to see what they have. They send in the Swampert. I actually bring in the Gliscor, and I'm going to try and snipe with a Night Slash. My opponent commits the shield, and they'll fire off a Hydro Cannon to grab a shield back. I'm hoping that Gliscor is going to be good versus whatever they have in the back, but that's not the case, as they have a Pelipper waiting for me in the back. I fire off the Night Slash able to land, and I do not get the boost. That's a little rough because that means that my second Night Slash is not going to KO either. On very low HP, I do reach the last second Night Slash. This will get the Pelipper low, but Pelipper is able to hang on and reach a charge move versus my Registeel, and this will get me very low. The question is, can I hang on and make the Focus Blast versus the Swampert? I cannot. And that's game over. Hopping into the final match, picking up a pretty decent lead, Shadow Gliscor into Shadow Victory Bell. My opponent is going to save switch into Lickitung. I'll stay in with the Gliscor, fire off a Night Slash, and then bring in my Registeel. Night Slash lands, Gliscor gets the boost, and suddenly my plans have changed. When Gliscor boosts, it feels almost right to stay in and try and play it out. I'm going to fire off this Night Slash. It's now boosted. It's going to do a ton of damage to the Lickitung. Lickitung commits the shield. They'll fire off another Body Slam, but at this point, I'm just looking to get as much value out of this Gliscor as I possibly can. So I am going to massively overfarm here till just shy of the back-to-back moves and fire off another Night Slash. My opponent is going to let that through, and they get taken out. I'm hoping they bring in the Victory Bell, and then I will be able to reach another Night Slash. My opponent chooses to send in Bastiodon instead. So, Shadow Victory Bell, Bastiodon core. Another core that gets core broken by Shadow Gliscor. They send in Shadow Victory Bell, and I will meet it with the Lickitung. Lickitung has a pretty comfortable one-shield matchup here. I'll fire off the Body Slam. They basically have to shield this. Shadow Victory Bell is extremely glassy, and I will be able to comfortably shield whatever they throw and reach Body Slam number 2. They go for the Acid Spray, hoping for a farm down, but that farm down is not going to happen. Lickitung reaches the Body Slam. Body Slam takes out the Victory Bell. Back in comes the Bastiodon. My opponent still not surrendering, holding out hope that Bastiodon will be able to take down the Tin Can Registeel, but today is not that day. They go for the Flamethrower. That doesn't even do half, and this Focus Blast is going to do a lot more than half. Focus Blast, taking out the Bastiodon, and that is a good game. All in all, I feel pretty impressed with Shadow Gliscor's performance in the Open Great League. Shadow Gliscor, due to its atypical typing and moveset, proves to be a very effective core breaker in a meta that is often dominated by steel types. You'll see a lot of steel plus fighting cores or steel plus grass cores, and Gliscor can put in a ton of work versus both of those cores. The one thing I will mention, as I did earlier, is that if I ran Shadow Gliscor again in the future, I would probably run a different team with it, just because being ABA weak to Swampert did prove to be rather annoying, as there were quite a few Swampert leads, and while I was able to make the games close, I wasn't quite able to get the win. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.